Episode 3. Kunyomi. Revenge.
Oh, what a beautiful maiden I have met.
And oh, what a handsome youth I have met. A perfect rhythm, a perfect bond, and from this true love, the very fabric of the world begins to quicken with life. Look, Izanagi, our first child is born, so small yet so full of life.
She is beautiful. We shall call her Awaji, the gateway to our world.
Ah, another one is coming. This one feels vast, dynamic.
Receive it, the great land of Shikoku. Look at her, Izanami. She holds 4 unique spirits, 4 faces of raw, ancient beauty.
The earth is burning with life. I can feel its fierce heartbeat.
That is the passionate soul of the South. Welcome to the world, Kyushu. One body yet burning with 9 divine spirits.
Izanagi, this is incredible. The land just keeps stretching.
The grand masterpiece, the great mainland Honshu. You did it, Izanami. Look at what our love has built.
With the birth of the magnificent mainland, the great Kunyomi reaches its glorious peak. The stage of Japan is officially born. A nation born from the literal labor of love. What did the ancient people see in these islands to give them multiple faces and names? Let's pass it over to Dai and Neni to unpack the deep, mysterious vibes of these newborn lands.
Because usually, when we picture how a world gets made, we envision this really cold industrial process.
Yeah, very mechanical.
Exactly. We think of a deity with this massive cosmic hammer, forging mountains out of iron, or maybe just some booming detached voice commanding land masses to just appear in an empty void.
Right, it's usually clinical. It's all about dominance and power.
Yeah, totally. It's a very architectural mindset.
You're essentially watching a cosmic foreman assemble a planet from a celestial instruction manual.
But I want you to imagine a frequency that is just completely different from that. Like, what if the landscape you walk on wasn't built with tools?
Okay.
What if it wasn't spoken into existence from absolutely nothing, but was, literally born out of a perfectly executed romantic do-over?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that changes the entire resonance of the story.
Completely shifts the vibe, right? And well, that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring the Kunyomi.
The ancient narrative detailing the birth of Japan.
Right, and it is a deeply, deeply fascinating text because it frames the creation of these massive islands not as, tectonic collisions or some huge architectural project.
But as biological offspring.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sheer, literal result of divine affection.
And, it's not an effortless, flawless affection either.
Right, which is the craziest part.
I mean, the most striking part of this entire narrative is that the ultimate creator deities, Izanagi and Izanami, actually fumbled their first attempt.
They completely messed it up.
They did. They messed up the foundational ritual. They actually had to step back, recalibrate, and try again.
Wait, hold up. I kind of need to push back on that right out of the gate because, if they are the ultimate creator deities, how do they fail?
It's a great question.
Is there some cosmic rule book they misread? How do you even mess up creating the universe?
Well, it's a brilliant question because we naturally assume gods are just, infallible.
Right, they can't do any wrong.
Exactly. But in this worldview, creation isn't about raw solitary power. It isn't a solitary genius in a laboratory just forcing things to exist.
Okay.
It is entirely about harmony and relationship. I mean, they failed the first time because their interpersonal dynamic was off.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they didn't communicate in the right sequence. The rhythm was broken, so the creation was flawed.
Okay, that is incredibly grounded.
Yeah.
So you have these cosmic beings, And before there is a single grain of dirt or a drop of ocean, they basically first have to go to couples counseling.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
They have to fix their rhythm. So let's unpack this wedding rematch, because the tension in this moment in the source is just palpable.
It truly is. I mean, they are standing at the center of the void, walking around this massive heavenly pillar.
Right.
And they are moving toward each other to greet one another, fully knowing that the fate of existence depends on getting this specific interaction right.
The text visualizes this so quietly too, like they are circling the pillar and Izanami sees him. She smiles softly, but crucially, she intentionally waits.
Yeah.
She holds the beat.
That hesitation is everything.
Yeah.
Why do you think that pause matters so much in the context of creating a world?
Well, man, I look at it like dropping the needle on a vinyl record, or, producing a really intricate lo-fi track.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, because the space between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves. If you drop the beat even a millisecond too early, the groove is entirely thrown off.
The tension just dissipates.
Really. You have to wait for the exact right frequency to enter the mix.
That is a beautiful way to phrase it. It is entirely about understanding your partner's frequency.
Right.
By waiting, Izanami actually creates the space for Izanagi to step in at the correct tempo.
And he does. He speaks first with this really deep, resonant affection. He says, "Oh, what a beautiful maiden I have met."
And then, perfectly on cue, matching his exact energy, Izanami responds, and "Oh, what a handsome youth I have met."
And boom, the groove locks in. The text calls the result a perfect rhythm and a perfect bond.
It's incredible.
It really is. It's from that specific, corrected social interaction that the fabric of the world begins to actually quicken with life. But I gotta admit, I'm still kind of stuck on the mechanics of this.
How so?
It just blows my mind that the entire universe's creation hinges on fixing a social interaction.
Well, it reveals a lot about how ancient people viewed the foundational fabric of reality.
Like how everything is connected.
Exactly. If the universe was created through an arrogant, offbeat interaction, the world would be chaotic and broken.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
By framing the origin of the world as a perfected social harmony, the narrative tells the listener that order, beauty, and life only come from mutual respect and perfect timing.
The rhythm of the universe is literally the rhythm of a healthy relationship.
Precisely.
Which, honestly, sets up the next phase perfectly. Because once that vibe is flawless, the result of their bond isn't just a sculpted object.
No, it's not.
They don't just summon a rock to stand on. This is where the story takes a very, very visceral biological turn.
It shifts from a conceptual ritual to a harsh physical reality.
Visceral is almost an understatement, man. Izanami doesn't just point a finger and make an island appear out of thin air.
Right.
She physically gives birth to the islands. Like, she goes through literal biological labor.
It's so intense.
The source describes her as exhausted, but smiling. She is breathing heavily, cradling the air as if she's holding a newborn infant.
The intimacy of that visual is so incredibly striking. I mean, she looks at this landmass and softly remarks, "Look, Izanagi, our first child is born." So small, yet so full of life.
It's wild. I'm trying to map this onto how ancient societies actually functioned.
What do you mean?
Well, we're so used to the trope of God striking blazing anvils, it's always sterile, right? But here, the earth is born from heavy breathing and physical exhaustion.
Yes.
So if an ancient society truly believed their island was a biological child born from divine labor, wouldn't that paralyze them?
Paralyzed.
Yeah, like, how do you chop down a tree or dig a well if the mountain is literally your sibling? But does this fundamentally change how they interacted with the environment?
Oh, you are touching on the exact philosophical core of this narrative right now.
Really?
Yes, it doesn't paralyze them. It redefines their relationship with consumption.
Okay, break that down for me.
Think about it. When you forge something with a hammer, you create an object, a tool, a possession, right?
Right, something to be used.
Exactly. You use a possession until it breaks and then you discard it.
Yeah.
But when a piece of land is born through exhaustion and divine love, it becomes living family.
Wow. A sibling you walk on. That is a heavy concept.
It forces a reciprocal relationship. You don't exploit a sibling.
No, you definitely don't.
I mean, you might ask a sibling for help. You might ask the land to provide rice or fish or timber, but you do so with a deep, ingrained reverence.
That makes so much sense.
You maintain the forests, you respect the rivers as veins of a living entity. The soil and the coasts aren't just raw materials waiting to be extracted. They share a lineage with you.
So you aren't conquering the wilderness. You are like coexisting with your older brother.
Perfectly said.
That totally shifts the urban modern mindset where we just pave over whatever's in our way.
It really does.
But okay, if we accept that the land is a living child, then just like any newborn, it has to grow.
Naturally.
These islands don't just pop out as identical clones of one another. They mature and evolve with each successive birth.
Let's trace that growth, because the progression of these island births is heavily symbolic of how ancient people understood the diversity of their own terrain.
Okay, yeah. Let's look at the island reviews. The first arrival on the text is Awaji Island.
Right.
And the source paints this very soft picture. It's a gentle, glowing light parting the sea. A beautiful, small island appears.
It's very serene.
Yeah, and Izanagi looks down at it and calls it the gateway to our world.
It is introductory. It's a quiet first breath.
I totally view it like the opening track on a really deep concept album.
Oh, here we go with the music again.
No, seriously, you don't start with a heavy bass. You start with, like, an acoustic guitar, a soft hum. You have to set the mood.
That's fair.
They just figured out their interpersonal rhythm, so they start small. Awaji is functional, it's gentle, it's basically the beta test, the proof of concept.
It proves that their corrected rhythm actually creates life.
Yeah.
Awaji is the physical evidence of their love.
Exactly.
But nature is rarely just gentle and introductory forever.
Which is why the tone shifts entirely with the very next birth.
It really ramps up.
We move to Shikoku Island. The ocean ripples heavily. A much larger landmass rises up, and it immediately splits into 4 distinct, beautiful mountain ranges.
The imagery is so powerful here.
Izanami is filled with divine power. She's breathing heavily, and she describes it as feeling vast and dynamic.
And listen to how Izanagi reacts to that. He observes that Shikoku holds 4 unique spirits, 4 faces of raw, ancient beauty.
See, that concept is fascinating to me, but I need you to break that down.
Sure.
Going from Awaji to Shikoku is a massive leap in complexity. You have one single island, but it is born with 4 distinct personalities.
Right.
Like, how does a piece of land have 4 faces?
Well, you have to imagine moving through that landscape on foot centuries ago.
Okay.
When ancient people traveled across Shikoku, they weren't looking at a flat map on a screen like we do.
No, of course not.
They were experiencing microclimates. They would walk from a sun-drenched, calm coastline into a dense, misty, freezing mountain range, and then down into a incredibly humid valley.
The physical sensation of the air literally changes.
Precisely. The vibe, the frequency of the environment shifted so drastically that they recognized the land wasn't monolithic.
It wasn't just one thing.
Right. By giving the island 4 faces and 4 spirits, the narrative reflects a street-smart, deeply observant geographical awareness.
That makes a lot of sense.
They felt the different moods of the terrain, and they attributed a unique soul to each region. It acknowledges that a single living entity can be complex and multifaceted.
Man, that is such a respectful way to view geography.
Isn't it?
It's like walking into different rooms of a massive underground art gallery where every room has a completely different energy, but it's all housed in the exact same building.
I love that. And if 4 spirits represent complexity, what happens when that land is volatile?
Oh man, we get to the heavy hitters.
We do.
Because the next birth in the text demonstrates an explosion of raw elemental power. Kyushu Island emerges, and the imagery is just intense.
Very intense.
Volcanic smoke mixes with golden light, bursting from the southern sea. Kyushu arrives with this fierce, untamed energy.
It's chaotic.
Yeah, Izanami's eyes are wide, and she says, "The earth is burning with life. I can feel its fierce heartbeat."
And Izanagi welcomes it as the passionate soul of the South.
But, okay, the detail that totally trips me up is the spirit count.
The 9 spirits.
Yes. Izanagi observes that Kyushu has one body, yet is burning with 9 divine spirits. 9.
It's a huge jump.
Shikoku had 4,
Yep.
and that was already complex. Now we have 9 souls packed into one physical landmass. It feels like an overpowered character in a game or something.
It really does.
Why such a massive jump in spiritual density?
Well, think about the actual geography of Kyushu.
Okay.
It is highly volcanic, it is unpredictable, it's dangerous, and yet incredibly fertile.
Right. Volcanic soil is super rich.
Exactly. To survive in an environment like that, ancient communities had to pay attention to every single detail.
They had to be on it.
They had to watch the hot springs, the fault lines, the way the ash affected the soil.
You can't just casually stroll through a volcanic landscape. You have to be hyper aware.
Exactly. The 9 spirits represent an overabundance of life force. It is a chaotic symphony.
Wow.
It shows a deep mythological respect for raw, terrifying, beautiful beautiful nature. The ancient people felt that intense, varied energy, that fierce heartbeat, and they translated it into a narrative truth.
So to them, a land that active couldn't possibly be contained by just 1 or 2 souls.
No, it required 9 just to hold all that fiery passion together.
It is just radiating different frequencies all at once.
Exactly.
And man, you can really feel the momentum building in the story here.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they've laid down the gentle acoustic intro with Awaji. They've layered the complex 4-part harmony with Shikoku. They've dropped the intense, heavy, unpredictable bass line with Kyushu.
And now they are gearing up for the crescendo.
A culmination of their entire creative endeavor.
On Shu Island,
Honshu Island. The source material notes that epic music swells here, and the visuals are straight up cinematic.
it's so grand.
A massive, endless landmass rises like a dragon shaking off the ocean. It is the ultimate mainland.
The scale is just unmatched.
Izanami actually sheds tears of joy. She is looking at it, stretching on toward the horizon, completely overwhelmed by the scale of what they've made.
And Izanagi embraces her, looks out at the sprawling landscape, and declares it the grand masterpiece.
Look at what our love has built.
It's beautiful.
It is such a profound emotional peak. But I want to ask about the imagery for a second.
The dragon.
Yeah. Why describe a landmass as a literal dragon?
Well, a dragon isn't just a large creature. In this context, it is a symbol of serpentine, winding, dynamic power.
Okay, yeah, Honshu is really long and curved.
Right, it curves through the ocean. But more importantly, dragons in this cultural context sleep, and sometimes they wake up and shake.
Earthquakes.
Yes, the mythology perfectly maps onto the tectonic reality of the environment.
That is wild.
The land is alive, it breathes, it stretches, and it shakes. Calling it a dragon acknowledges its massive power and its potential to move.
But again, it is framed not as a monster to be defeated, but as the magnificent masterpiece of a divine couple's love.
Exactly. Honshu acts as the grand stage. It is the sweeping, unifying center of their world.
It really brings everything full circle, doesn't
It
it?
really does.
I mean, we started this deep dive looking at a simple, highly tense social interaction. 2 creator deities pacing around a heavenly pillar, trying to get their conversational timing right.
Just a single hesitant pause that allowed harmony to exist.
And from that perfected rhythm came a biological, exhausting labor of love.
A literal birth.
We watched the gentle, introductory gateway of Awaji take its first breath. We saw the incredible 4-faced complexity of Shikoku reflecting the shifting moods of the mountains.
The microclimates.
Right, and then we felt the fiery, 9-souled passion of Kyushu's volcanic heartbeat.
Which was so intense.
And finally, we stood on the shores of Honshu, witnessing a dragon-shaped masterpiece shake off the ocean.
It's an epic journey, and the entire narrative redefines what it means to exist within a natural landscape.
Yeah.
You are not standing on a rock floating in a dead void. You are standing on the physical manifestation of harmony.
Which honestly leaves you, the listener, with a thought to carry into your day. When you finish this deep dive and you walk outside, I want you to really look at the geography around you.
Take it all in.
Whether it's a mountain in the distance, a valley, a stretch of coastline, or even just the soil underneath your local park.
Right.
If you viewed that environment not as dead dirt, not as raw material waiting to be used, but as a living, breathing sibling with its own distinct face and its own heartbeat, well, how would that change the way you move through your city today?